Cary was very upset. Maybe he had some guilt because I believe he was supposed to have been with his brother.
It seemed as though he had a compulsion with trying to get close to women or be sexual with them, but he was unable to develop any sort of interpersonal relationships with any women.
Cary has a couple of nervous breakdowns. One was fairly violent.
He stated that he felt like jumping in the truck, driving it through the shop, and killing the boss, and killing everybody in the office, and then torching the place.
Cary Anthony Stayner, the Yosemite Park killer, is an American serial killer and the older brother of kidnapping victim Steven Stayner. He was convicted of 4 heinous murders of 4 women between February and July 1999. The gruesome acts he subjected his victims to include strangulation, shooting, rape, throat slashing, and decapitation. The murders occurred in Mariposa County, California, near Yosemite National Park. Cary Stayner was born on August 13, 1961, the first of 5 children born to Delbert and Cary Stayner in Merced, California. He had 3 sisters and a young brother, Steven Stayner. On December 4, 1972, 7-year-old Steven was abducted in Merced, California by child molester Kenneth Parnell until the age of 14, when he decided to escape with another of Parnell's victims, Timothy White, and becoming the hero he is known now.
This is Steven today. He is holding 5-year-old Timothy White.
Steven was a national hero. He returns to Merced triumphant.
Cary later said that he felt neglected while his parents grieved over the loss of Steven. When Steven escaped and returned home, he received massive media attention, which resulted in the 1989 release of a television miniseries based on his experience. I Know My Name is Steven, also known as The Missing Years, based on the true crime book of the same name. And Cary once again felt overshadowed by the attention his brother got. When Cary was 3 years old, he was diagnosed with a disorder characterized by the urge of pulling own hair out and was put on medication. The condition continued to affect him during his high school years, resulting in bald spots and led to him being severely bullied and having to wear a baseball cap. Although it is believed that his brother's kidnapping contributed to Cary's sexual deviancy, Cary claimed to authorities after his arrest that he had begun to fantasize about abducting and murdering women since he was 7, prior to the abduction of his brother.
As far as I know, he's never talked to anyone about the effect Steven might have had on his crimes. I'm not sure there is any direct cause and effect. Steven could have grown up normal, happy, and healthy, and Cary still would have been a serial killer.
Additionally, despite his intelligence being noted by his classmates and teachers and being placed in accelerated classes in school, he continued having fantasies about women being gang raped before he was a teenager. While his sister's friend was staying over at his house, he exposed himself in front of her. During his high school years, Cary contributed to the school newspaper with cartoons and was chosen as the most creative student in his graduation class at the age of 18 at Merced High School. Cary suffered of having extreme thoughts all his life, and a couple of them manifested into reality. After graduating, he worked as a window installer at a glass company, which is where he allegedly developed a fantasy about ramming a truck into the workplace, killing everyone there, and setting the place on fire. In 1991, Cary tried to gas himself to death with carbon monoxide. In 1995, he was admitted to a mental institution after claiming to have a nervous breakdown and was released after receiving treatment. He was also arrested in 1997 for possession of marijuana and meth, although these charges were eventually dropped.
Cary has a couple of nervous breakdowns. One was fairly violent.
He stated that he felt like jumping in the truck, driving it through the shop, and killing the boss, and killing everybody in the office, and then torching the place. And that's when I told him, you need to go see a doctor, Cary.
Cary is also dreaming about killing women. He enters a mental health facility but doesn't stay.
The Hulu original true crime documentary named Captive Audience, a real American horror story, documents the tragic event related to the Stayner brothers. In 1999, 27 years after his brother's kidnapping, Cary Stayner committed 4 murders against 4 women who were residing at Cedar Lodge Motel just outside El Portal entrance to Yosemite National Park, where he worked as a handyman since 1997.
Cary Stayner was still working here at the lodge. He was still living here on the premises. He was still an active member of the community.
3 of the 4 victims were a mother, her teenage daughter, and her daughter's friend, 42-year-old Carol Ivan Sund, 15-year-old Julie Sund, and the 16-year-old Argentinian exchange student Silvina Piloso. And the 4th victim is 26-year-old Joy Ruth Armstrong, a naturalist who worked in the park. Cary was also suspected of being responsible for other homicides and disappearances, in addition to his 4 known victims. In his jailhouse interview, Cary said that he killed the women because they were at the wrong place at the wrong time. Cary Stayner committed the 4 murders on 2 occasions, February 15 and July 22. I will be detailing what happened to each of the victims and mentioning the ones he is suspected of. On February 15, 1999, the 3 women went missing. Later on March 18, the first 2 victims, 42-year-old Carol Ivan Sund and 16-year-old Argentinian exchange student Silvina Piloso, were found in the trunk of the remains of Carol's rental car. The bodies were burned beyond recognition and were identified using dental records. Sund was strangled with a rope and shot, but was not raped, while Piloso was raped and shot. A week later, on March 25, a note was sent to police with a hand-drawn map indicating the location of the 3rd victim, Carol's 15-year-old daughter, Juliana Sund. On the top of the note read, "We had fun with this one." Investigators went to the location depicted on the map and found the remains of Julie, who had been raped and whose throat had been cut. Detectives began interviewing employees of the Cedar Lodge motel where the 3 victims had been staying just before their deaths. One of those employees was Cary, and he was not considered a suspect at that point because he had no criminal history and remained calm during the police interview. Cary Stayner later admitted that he told the women there was a leak to gain access to their room, then strangled Carol and Silvina, put their bodies in the trunk of their car.
Cary knocks on their door. He tells them he's maintenance and needs to fix a leak.
They let me in. I went to the bathroom to check the fan, where I told them the leak probably would be. When I came out of the bathroom, I pulled my gun out, and I told them I wanted the money and the keys to the car.
And forced Julie to ride with him for hours. He then slit Julie's throat and left her body near a creek before returning to burn the car.
The Piloso girl couldn't speak very good English, was crying a lot. And Julie was very calm. I laid out the blanket, and I guess I knew what I was going to do, because I had the knife with me. And I slit her throat.
On July 22, 1999, the decapitated body of Yosemite Institution employee Joy Ruth Armstrong, a 26-year-old naturalist, was found near a stream in the woods about a half a mile away from her cabin, and her head in the water several feet away. The previous day, Cary Stayner had noticed her while walking through the area and decided to kill her. He held her in her cabin at gunpoint, bound her hands and mouth with duct tape, and forced her into his vehicle. Joy was able to jump through the window of the moving truck, but Cary chased her down and beheaded her. Cary claimed he never sexually assaulted any of the women and wanted to keep their deaths as humane as possible.
And I was just over there throwing rocks in the creek, and just after I noticed her walk out again and again, it seemed like she was alone.
He gets out his backpack. He's got a gun, he's got duct tape, he's got a knife. He's standing somewhere in this vicinity. He's talking to her.
So I pulled out the gun, I put it to her head. She turned around and freaked out. I told her to go inside.
After his arrest, Cary was the suspect of at least 4 other murders. However, he was not convicted of anything other than the 4 victims he killed. It should be noted that no crucial evidence were found connecting Cary to these crimes. These murders include 28-year-old Patricia Mary Hicks Dahlstrom, last contacted family in September 1982. After relocating to Merced, California from Washington State, she had joined the religious following, the San Anda Apostolic Church, founded by cult leader Donald Gibson. Hicks was one of the group members who were detained in December 1980. An investigation into the religious organization revealed that sexual assault had been carried out under various religious pretenses. Gibson was put on trial in September 1981 and was found guilty of 4 sex offenses. Afterward, Hicks decided to leave the cult and was last seen by her roommate, taking public transportation to the Yosemite National Park. A severed arm and hand were discovered near the original scene. In April 2021, genetic genealogy identified the remains as being those of Hicks. Cary is known to have been acquainted with Gibson at the time of his 1981 trial, which he attended. Authorities believe Cary may have chosen to kill Hicks in relation for her testimony against Gibson. On December 26, 1990, Cary's paternal uncle, 42-year-old Gerald Stayner, with whom Cary lived in Merced, California, was shot to death in his house with his own shotgun. The murder was never solved, and Cary became a suspect after his arrest. Cary later claimed that Jess molested him around the same time that Steven was kidnapped when he was 11. In October 1994, severed human hands were found near the New Melones Reservoir. On December 13, 1994, a headless and handless torso in a cluster of trees off Camp 9 Road near Vallecito, California, by a group of boys who were burning yard debris. A forensic pathologist determined that the detached hands belongs to the body. In December 1995, the remains were identified as belonging to 24-year-old Charlene Mavon Murphy. Her head has never been found. The FBI investigated Murphy's homicide to determine a link due to similarities between her death and the murder of Joy Armstrong. Authority also reviewed the case of 34-year-old Denise Smith, whose decomposed body was discovered in a 50-gallon burn barrel of Jacksville Road near Don Pedro Reservoir in December 1994. 24-year-old Michelle Leary planned to meet friends at Sandbar Flat Campground near Sonora, California on August 10, 1996 for camping and fishing. On that day, he left his family's home at around 5 a.m. He was never seen again. At 2 a.m. on August 12, 1996, Maiden's companions showed up to the predetermined spot, but they found no sign of him. Authorities have considered that Maiden may have been a victim of Cary, who committed his crimes near Yosemite National Park, 75 miles east of Sonora. After police found the bodies of Carol and Silvina in the burned vehicle, they received an anonymous letter detailing where they could find Julie's body. Police then questioned a couple of suspects, including Cary at the time, but he was clean-cut and had no criminal history, so they didn't believe he had anything to do with it, and released him. And in June they announced that, though none of the suspects had been convicted, they were confident that the killer was at least in custody.
Authorities would take two half-brothers with violent backgrounds into custody in connection with the murders of the three women.
People may have thought the right people were in custody, and they certainly wanted to believe the right people were in custody, but they weren't the right people.
They were proven wrong when on July 22, 1999, the decapitated corpse of Yosemite naturalist Joy Armstrong was discovered not far from the cabin where she'd been staying. Unlike his first murder, Cary left behind plenty of evidence when he killed Armstrong. Authorities found tire tracks from his truck, as well as a red mechanic's hat that belonged to him. And eyewitnesses came forward and said they saw a blue 1972 International Scout parked outside the cabin where she was staying the day prior to her death on July 21. They soon tracked him to a nudist camp in Wilton, California, and arrested him. During questioning, Cary stunned investigators by offering to confess in exchange for child pornography. According to the Arizona Daily Sun, Cary allegedly said, "It's sick, disgusting, perverted. I know that. I can't go to prison for the rest of my life and be happy without seeing it." Police, of course, refused, and Cary made a full confession anyway. Cary told investigators that he hadn't initially intended to murder Joy Armstrong, but when he saw her alone outside her cabin, he could no longer resist the temptation to kill her. He later admitted that he would have kept killing until he was caught.
Unlike the first three murders, where he left virtually no evidence, he knew that he had left a very easy trail for investigators. Now, Cary Stayner realizes he has to get out. He packs up and leaves. Stayner gets up and puts his hands up.
Cary was tried in federal court for Joy Armstrong's murder. Since it occurred on federal land, to avoid a possible death sentence, he pleaded guilty to premeditated first-degree murder, felony first-degree murder, kidnapping resulting in death, and attempted aggravated sexual abuse resulting in death. During the sentencing hearing, Cary stunned the courtroom when he suddenly broke down in tears and apologized. "I wish I could take it back, but I can't," he said. "I wish I could tell you why I did such a thing, but I don't even know myself. I'm so sorry. I wish there was a reason, but there isn't. It's senseless." Leslie Armstrong, Joy's mother, started crying as she listened to Cary and said afterward that she believed his apology was genuine. Cary was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. Cary also pleaded not guilty by reason of insanity to the other 3 murders in state court. Cary also admitted that he had intended to murder 2 Finnish girls in 1998, but fled when the girl's advisor arrived. His lawyer claimed that the Stayner family had a history of sexual abuse and mental illness, manifesting itself not only in the murders, but also his obsessive-compulsive disorder and his request to be provided with child pornography in return for his confession. Dr. Jose Arturo Silva testified that Cary had obsessive-compulsive disorder, mild autism, and paraphilia. He was nevertheless found sane and convicted of 3 counts of first-degree murder with special circumstances and 1 count of kidnapping by a jury on August 27, 2002. After being sentenced to death for the brutal killings, Cary has been housed at the Adjustment Center on death row at San Quentin State Prison in California since 2002. Cary remains on death row, though there have been no execution in California since a 2006 court ruling overflow in the administration of capital punishment in the state. Cary Stayner is currently serving his sentences in state and federal prison for his crimes. He received a life sentence without the possibility of parole for both his state and federal convictions. His state sentence is for the murder of 3 women in Mariposa County, and his federal sentence is for the murder of Joy Armstrong in Yosemite National Park. It's important to note that his case involved both state and federal jurisdiction due to the location of his crimes, and he faced separate legal proceedings in each. Cary's case serves as an example of how an individual convicted of crimes in both state and federal courts may receive separate sentences for each jurisdiction conviction. The aftermath of Cary's crimes had a profound impact on the families of the victims, who were forever changed by the loss of their loved ones, and him not being eligible for parole ensured he will never again have the chance to kill unsuspecting women.